Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Zaleski Sports Show. Jason Zaleski here. Steve Maves will be on the show just a little bit later. It's a special edition of the Zaleski Sports Show today. We are all Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln High School today, as we'll talk to both girls and boys basketball coaches on today's show. And then later on in the show, we will talk about our girls basketball Power 5, and we will release our boys basketball Power 5 for the first time in 2019. But we're going to get things going right away. Like I said, we've got two coaches on the show today, and our first coach is here, and he's ready. Mitch Wolding, Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln girls basketball coach. Coach, thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we're going to have some fun. We're going to get to know about you and the rest of the Lincoln girls basketball team. Coach, it's your first year this year head coaching girls basketball team here in 2019. JV coach for the past number of years. Just tell us about the transition from JV to head coach and why that was a good move for you.
Well, I think it helps with obviously the players and having some familiarity with who was on that JV team, and then obviously we had a few seniors graduate last year, and then some girls from my squad last year being able to step into those bigger roles. So that definitely helped being familiar with the program, being familiar with the girls. So.
Yeah, good. Well, we're glad to have you. I'm sure they're glad to have you too, and yeah, certainly a little bit of a learning curve, perhaps. We're going to talk about this year here in a little bit. So we'll talk about you've played a couple games already, so we'll get to that in just a moment. But real quick, last year we were just talking before we came on. The girls fell in the playoffs to Appleton North at the end of the year last year. You lost a couple seniors, and that's the way it is in high school sports. A new group comes in, and one group goes out. Maddie Pytel, team leader last year in a lot of ways, in points in particular, averaged almost 12 points a game. Who are some of those girls from last year that have moved on that obviously you're going to miss from the program from last year?
Yeah, so obviously Maddie Pytel was a big scoring threat.
Yep.
Yeah, Maddie Pytel was a big scoring threat for us last year. Kayla Huglin, 6'2" last year after she graduated. We obviously have some height that we need to be looking for. We are across the board not very tall. So obviously with the rebounding and things like that kind of is a little bit of a weakness. But we have a good group, a strong, quick, aggressive group that we can use in full court and pressure the ball a lot. But transitioning from those players that graduated into now, it's just a matter of kind of catching everybody up to speed and getting used to that varsity level.
I mentioned the playoff loss last year. Rapids finished 5-7 in the Wisconsin Valley. Tough Wisconsin Valley every year, though, really. Yeah. But recently, led by Spash and Wausau West. So we'll get into talk about this year. You've got two seniors on the team this year, so we'll start with them. Allie Abbott and Abby Look, 5'6", 5'9". You talked about some of that size, and that's where they come in on the charts there. What kind of responsibility, what kind of leadership do you expect out of your seniors in this year's program?
I think it's just catching our younger kids up to speed on just the play of the game, the court awareness. I know we went into Appleton East, and a big part of it was just experience. Only having two seniors with varsity time experience, and a few other juniors and a few sophomores who have that experience. But for the majority part, is you're bringing in a new group, and really that is as a senior is just the leadership and getting everybody familiar with that kind of style, or I guess that tempo of play.
I think we'll quickly go to expectations this year, and then we'll come back into some of the intricacies of your team. But I mentioned Spash West. They've been conference leaders now for a long time. What kind of hill is that to climb for, let's say, your first year as a head coach, and then for this group of girls that you have? What does the top of the conference look like, and how do you get there?
In all honesty, I really think we have a group of girls that's really up for the challenge this year, and they put in a lot of hard work in. They've been great in the off season, and I think conference as far as the top is we're in that picture. Obviously, I think this year's Spash is a tough one that's going to be up there, and so is Marshfield. Wausau West lost a lot after last year and graduated. Some really good seniors, but. I like to say that we're in that mix, and depending on how quick we can get our girls experience and kind of get them caught up to obviously my new things that I'm bringing in as a coach. And like I said, I think we're in that mix. I think we're in the mix for that top running in that area. So.
You start out the year 1-1. We briefly mentioned that to beat Oshkosh North 65-42, season opener at Oshkosh North, and another road game a week ago on Tuesday, lost over at Appleton East 61-29. What have you learned about the team so far this year?
Sure. So, I mean, part of it is we went to Oshkosh North and, had a great game, and then we go into Appleton East and we play a top 10 ranked team. And, then I think that's really kind of opens your eyes of really what's your weaknesses. And I think a good team will kind of expose that. And that's a good learning, spot for our girls and, us as coaches as well, just to kind of know what we need to target and move forward with that. So,
Coach, we mentioned those two seniors on the team. By my count here, you've got two juniors and then a lot of youth on the team here this year. How you talked about those seniors showing those younger girls the ropes here a little bit, and again we're talking to Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln girls basketball coach Mitch Wolding. Talk about let's just talk about those two juniors a little bit and what those girls bring to the team. Allie Martin and Vanessa Vachinsky. What do you expect out of the juniors this year?
The juniors have been great. I mean they still bring a lot of leadership, kind of like our seniors do. They both have varsity experience. And I just, for those two, they bring a lot of positive energy to the team, and they're always carrying. Especially we have 6 sophomores right now on our varsity roster. So for those two, even as juniors, to kind of be a relation between the those sophomores and being able to guide them is huge.
And then those sophomores, and that's going to be interesting for you as a first-year coach, dealing with some of those sophomores. Although you probably have some familiarity with them from last year. To me, having that group of sophomores out there, they're going to learn on the fly. They're going to learn a lot, and they're going to get themselves in some situations where you as a coach are like, oh, why'd you do that? Or, oh, how did you do that?
Yep.
Talk about what that's going to be like with this mix of really sophomore-heavy team.
Yeah, and it just comes down to a matter of experience and getting them some court time, especially, like a game like Appleton East, and being able to go against a top-ranked team and being able to understand what that tempo of play is like, and I think they're catching on. They've had some good moments, and they also had some moments where we have to learn. So.
Yeah, all right. And then tomorrow, Tuesday, December 3rd, another road game. You're over at Crosse Central. What do you know about Crosse Central so far here this year?
Well, they're 2-0, and they put a lot of pressure, and that's something that we try to replicate in practice. Is just as far as picking up half court or full court and just being kind of glued in the passing lane and things like that. So I think we're prepared. Obviously, coming off a Thanksgiving break is always tough, and to get back into the swing of things. But I think we're prepared for that game.
I've called some high school games over the last couple of weeks, and I've watched a few more. I don't remember a time this early in the season, or at any point in the season, where I've seen so many missed free throws. Talk about what kind of emphasis you put on free throws with your girls, and then you're 2 games in, but talk about your free throw shooting too.
Sure. So obviously with our style, with our speed, our quickness, we're trying to get to the rim. We know a lot of times we're going to end up getting that foul, and we're going to go to the line. We shot, I think it was nearly at 70% at Oshkosh North, which is good. I would have to look back at the Appleton East game and kind of how those numbers went. But overall, it's part of our scheme. We want to get to the free throw line as much as possible, especially with our quickness and trying to transition quick. And it's an important thing for us.
Yeah, free throws are important, obviously. And as I talk to a basketball coach here, I'm preaching to the choir here on free throws, but I'm just going to say it out loud. It goes a long way during the course of a game to make those free throws, either extend your lead or be able to come back in those games. And I don't know if early on in this season kids have forgot that. Coaches have forgot that. I'm not sure, but we've seen an impact here so far. So word to the wise, Coach. A lot of free throw practice, yes, and you win a lot of games that way. All right, and then next week you start conference play. You've got Wausau West at home on Tuesday, December 10th, and then at Marshfield on Friday, December 13th. How important is it in a tough Wisconsin Valley Conference to get off to a good start?
It is, and it's nice. Obviously, we play on the road a lot in the beginning of this year. I think it's it could be like 9 out of our 11 first games are away. And so being able to have Wausau West at home and being on our home court is a big day for us. And, to be able to step, I think, away with that, hopefully a win on that first, conference play would be huge.
Well, Coach, best of luck in 2019. Good to have you in here. Thanks again for coming in.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln head girls basketball coach Mitch Wolding. Coach, we've got a substitute at the table. Dan Witter's checking in, so
all right.
We'll trade you out for Coach. But best of luck tomorrow at Crosse Central.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mitch. Thanks a lot. All right, we will continue our Zaleski Sports Show here on this Monday morning, as we will now, again, as I said, we've got a sub at the scores table, and buzzer sounds. In comes Coach Dan Witter, Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln boys basketball coach. Coach, thanks for coming in today. We appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely, appreciate it.
All right, well, we're going to have some fun, get to know Coach here a little bit, and get a reminder on Coach. So let's start with that. Coach, how many years have you been coaching? He's going to get his abacus out here. How many years you've been coaching, and then what keeps you coming back?
This is my 30th year as a head coach. I've been coaching probably 36, 37 years. I started in college in 1983 as an assistant after I graduated, so it's been a while. I've taught for that long, too. Keep me coming back. It's kind of like, I listen to Krzyzewski a lot, and he talks about it. It's kind of the moments, there's moments here, there's moments there. It's not, I don't know of anybody that likes the grind, but it's what makes it worthwhile, I think. The summer stuff, you're in the gym in July, nobody sees any of that stuff. That's the coaching part of it. November 18th when we started and that kind of stuff. I'm not sure that's, that everybody's doing that. It's the other stuff that's, that kind of makes coaching. You're with kids in the summer, you're at some gym and God knows where, and you're, just trying to get better and hopefully improve on the year before.
Well, you and Coach Krzyzewski still have your hair, so you got that going for you.
Exactly.
All right, Coach, we'll talk a little bit about last year, and then we'll transition into this year and expectations, and we'll talk about all your guys on the team, that kind of thing. So last year, finished 3-9 in the Wisconsin Valley Conference, led by Dylan Lisitsa, almost 18 points a game from Dylan. What were some of the favorite memories from the 2018-2019 basketball season?
We struggled early. We lost 4 senior starters, and we were just bringing Dylan back. So it was a real transition year as far as that goes. Some young guys that were young as juniors, but in the level that we play at in Division I, there's not a lot of young kids that are really get to be successful, and by success that's different to everybody. But I mean by beating good teams and stuff like that. You usually need a veteran group in some way, shape, or form at this level, just the teams that we play and the schedule we play. So it was a learning experience. We beat a couple teams that, probably were in the same boat as us. So, and then we lost some teams. We had Merrill on the ropes. They won the conference championship, and we lost to them at overtime at our place. So, we at times when we played really well, we beat DC Everest 92-91, and Dylan had like 40-some points and was unconscious that night. So played Eau Claire North, really tough. Again, Dylan played well. So, we had some moments last year, but I think knowing we had to get through that to get to where we are now is part of the cyclical, adventure there is in high school basketball.
Yeah, it'd be something if you had 12 seniors every year and everybody knew exactly what to do, where to go, and that'd be maybe a lot easier as a coach.
But I think those days are gone. I just think kids, if they're not playing as soon as they can, I'm not sure that you're going to have, that many seniors. We have 6 this year, and that's a pretty large number in some senses, and some of those guys aren't playing a lot. So that you don't usually get that. And no, nothing against any kids or anything, but they're like, why am I wasting my time here? I could go get a job. I could go do this. I could go do that. Take another class. Take an AP course. Do whatever they could do. So it's just the nature of the beast right now.
Coach, as I look at your roster, it's all seniors and juniors on the roster here as we transition into the 2019-2020 season. So let's focus first on your senior group. What kind of expectations do you have for those seniors? What kind of expectations do you have for them when they're on the court? Kind of a coach on the court. They've been in basketball for a long time. How much do you put on those kids?
Well, I think they put it on themselves. I think they get together and they talk. With social media, and they're never out of contact. It's not like the old days when you went home and you didn't see your friend till the next day unless you had to call them or something. they can text somebody at midnight if they want to, one of their friends, and communicate. So I think they're communicating constantly, and I think, this year's group, we have 6 seniors, which is a, pretty large number. 3 of them are starting, and we got some guys coming off the bench. Actually, I think we have 7, but we had some late additions that decided to come out late for the team or whatever. But, I think like Matt Schooley and Nathan Kromenacher and Austin Pilot, they had, Matthew and Austin played football, and they were together there. So it's kind of a carryover of their leadership from that aspect to get to where they are now. But I think our juniors also took on a leadership role, just, okay, this is how we're going to play. This is our goals. I think they have some lofty goals. I've kind of tempered those a little bit. And, you can say you want to win a conference championship. You can say you want to get to state. But that, we've played 2 games right now, and you got to try, and we have practice tonight. So what can you control? Let's just control practice this evening and not worry about who we play tomorrow. Let's just try to do. So we call it the process. It's a Nick Saban mantra, and we've kind of used that, and I've preached what it is and what it should mean, and it's coach speak, got to get better every day. You got to do, but in reality, that's how you get better at everything. You don't end up riding a bike. You start out falling down about 15 times, and then you get a little bit further, and finally you can ride a bike. So I think that's what they've taken hold of, and that's what we preach this year.
Talking to Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln boys basketball coach Dan Witter. Coach, you mentioned the 2 games. Lost at Hortonville. This was all over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, down in Wisconsin Dells?
Yep,
is that where you were?
Okay. Just a game,
Yep. Lost to Hortonville 69-57, and then picked up a win against Holman 53-46. So what did you learn from your team over the course of those 2 games?
Well, once again, I watched the film most of yesterday and didn't have a whole lot of time. We played Friday night and then Saturday at noon at 12:40. So you get on a bus at 9 o'clock. You didn't have a whole lot of time to watch film or do anything about it, even if you did watch film. So I watched a lot yesterday, and it's the old adage, it's never as good as it is or never bad as it seems. It's somewhere in between, and we were right there with Hortonville, made some mistakes, turnovers really down the stretch. It was a 2-3-point game, and then Dylan fouled out, Matthew fouled out, and then, we struggled from there. But it was not a 12-point game. It was probably a 3 or 4-point game, and we turned it over twice. That turned into layups for them. That turned it into a 7-8-point game, and then we, fouled down the stretch. So we were closer than actually when I looked at the game, the score, and they had a layup at the buzzer that we weren't playing. It was over. The game was over. So it was probably, the margin was 10, but the margin really was probably 4, maybe 3, and we turned it over a couple times. But you learn from that. And then Holman was the same thing. It was a nip and tuck game. They had taken a 1-point lead, and then I think we went on a 13-5 run or something like that towards the end of the game and closed it out with free throws. And the reason it got to a 1-point lead for them is we missed like 1 front end of the bonus and 2 other free throws. So we missed an opportunity to extend a lead, and that's something that we're going to get better at. These kids have only been together since November 18th, so it's only been about 2 weeks, that they've actually played together. So we have a long way to go and figure ourselves out. But I was pretty pleased that Hortonville is going to be a really good team. They beat the Dells, who was ranked in the state by 25, yesterday. So I thought from that aspect we learned a lot. Tournament, Christmas and Thanksgiving tournaments, those are kind of an iffy thing. Would you go play somebody, who do you play? Well, we go down there and we really don't have any choice in who we play, whoever they schedule. So it's kind of a neat deal, but there's a long way to go yet.
Coach, I mentioned last year, we'll wrap it up here as we're talking to Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln boys basketball coach Dan Witter. I mentioned last year 3 wins in conference. You said Merrill and Marshfield each had 10 wins. They led the conference last year. What does it take here in this season to close that gap and maybe challenge for something near the top?
There's a lot of parity in our league. I know Wausau East is 2-1 or 3-1, something like that. They'd won over and Wausau West is 2-0. And those were 2 of the teams that were picked to be down in the conference. Marshfield lost to Nino, who's very good.
Yes.
And then now they play Holman. So we'll kind of get a gauge where we're at with Marshfield when they play Holman tomorrow night, and see kind of where we're at versus where they're at. And then Merrill and DC Everest have not started yet. They haven't even played a game. So And Spash beat Rhinelander pretty handily last week. So I think overall you may have a 4-loss champion, 8-4, or depending on how, because I think everybody's pretty equal. They're all everybody lost a lot last year. Merrill, and the yearbook has Merrill and DC Everest and then us in that order. But we have not seen ourselves play with Grant other than the last 2 games. So I think we're going to get better, and then we'll see where Merrill and DC Everest are at.
Well, Coach, best of luck this year. You play at home tomorrow night, December 3rd, right here in Wisconsin Rapids. So get down to the gym and watch that game. We will see you Friday, December 13th at Marshfield. Again, job one, everybody, as I looked at the camera now. Get down to the gym, cheer on your favorite team. If you can't, that game at Marshfield be live also at ZaleskiSports.com. Coach, best of luck here this year. Thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate your time.
All right, Coach. Thank you very much for stopping in as we'll continue our Zaleski Sports Show here. And we've got another substitute at the scorer's table. Steve Mave's going to check in as the buzzer sounds as we rotate coaches for former players at this point now, as we keep that corny analogy going with the buzzer at the scorer's table. But Steve's going to buzz in here. He's checked into the game, set his position number at the table. Now he's all set to go. All right, well, basketball previews, those were pretty good stuff. Thanks again to Mitch Wolding and to Dan Witter, both girls and boys, Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln basketball coaches, respectively. And we'll continue, Steve, with our basketball talk here. Our updated girls Power 5 was released last night, and we had one change on the Power 5 as you and I both got a look at Assumption girls basketball over this past week. They drop out, and in comes Loyal. Loyal Cranberry Classic champions, and they beat Assumption. So let's just talk about the newcomer here, the Loyal Greyhounds, Remy Geiger and the rest of the girls. Impressive over the weekend.
Very impressive. And going back to that championship game against Assumption, they had 2 girls foul out late. Caitlin Linder, one of them, Kayla Bremer, the other one. 2 of their starting 5 out. Paige Smith, as we saw, an injury to her knee, and Remy Geiger just came through huge. A lot of big shots. Savannah Schley as well from the free throw line. 26 points for Remy Geiger in that championship game. Big game for Maddie Bone, who just committed to go to Platteville. Congratulations to her.
Yes.
But the Loyal Greyhounds, a very good team, and a lot of fun to watch.
3 Clover Belt East teams in our Power 5, and if you've watched any of our season previews, and I'm sure that you did, everybody watches all of those, right? We previewed a lot of those Clover Belt East teams, and we think it's one of the best basketball conferences for girls basketball in the entire state. Colby, Loyal, Neelsville, Newman, Spash, all in our Power 5, and this is our alphabetical list of girls basketball teams that we think you should pay close attention to, and go take in those games if you can, and watch them online and highlights at the Zaleski Sports Facebook network. We'll pause real quick on Newman before we move to our boys' Power 5. Newman Cardinals, state appearance last year, a new head coach this year. No different, though. They're off to a 3-0 start. And how about this, Steve? On Tuesday night, tomorrow night, they host Division I Wausau West. I mean, think about that. The Cardinals and the Warriors. It's going to be some kind of game on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and they've had a lot of good matchups in volleyball over the last couple of years. And now going to the basketball court, Tom Weinkoff going up against his former team, West going up against Newman, as we just mentioned. So that should be one heck of a ball game. It should be a lot of fun. A lot of games going on tomorrow with the boys now regularly starting, and now the girls in their 3rd week already. First week of December already. And, a lot of good basketball around central Wisconsin for sure.
First week of December, and it looks like it outside. Yeah. It looks like December. It may even look like January and February, and I think we're in for a long one here. All right, moving then. Well, hold on. Before we move over there, I just want to congratulate both those teams, too, Newman and West, for having the courage to play each other. Other schools, take note. Pay attention to that. There is nothing wrong with filling your non-conference schedule against teams that will challenge you, and just regardless of division. So congratulations to those 2 teams for having the courage to match up on the court together. But again, it'll be a fun one. Newman and Wausau West, Tuesday night at Newman Catholic. All right, moving over to boys basketball, Power 5. We've just talked to Wisconsin Rapids boys basketball coach Dan Witter. He mentioned a couple of these teams haven't even played yet, and that's true. And that means three of our teams, as I look down the list now, in our Power 5 haven't even played yet. So how in the world do we have a Power 5? Well, we know things. That's why. But you just said, Steve, all these teams are going to hit the court for the first time tomorrow if they haven't already. And our boys basketball Power 5 in alphabetical order goes like this: Neillsville, Rib Lake, Spash, Stratford, and Wild Rose. And those, again, are 5 teams that we think, if you're out and about and you've got a free moment, if they're not your favorite team, go ahead and take them in, get down to the gym and watch them, or check them out at ZaleskiSports.com. We will give you our live broadcast schedule here in just a moment as we begin to close out our show. But Neillsville, Rib Lake, Spash, Stratford, Wild Rose, and if I was somebody not in that Power 5, I would not want to play any of those 5.
Oh, absolutely. And going back to teams that haven't played, Stratford and Edgar are supposed to play tomorrow. That game got canceled,
Yep.
so Stratford won't even have their first game until December 6th.
Friday. Yep.
Yeah, and so just knowing Wild Rose as well, very well coached every single year in the Central Wisconsin Small Conference. Going up against, as always, a very good Kurt Lamb, Almond Bancroft team in that conference. But again, see the Clover Belt East in there with Neillsville, Rib Lake as well, and the Merriwood North. So, and can never sleep on Spash either, and especially in the boys' side. So it'll be interesting to see how all these teams fare once they finally hit the court against some competition.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Spash Panther basketball: we think they belong in this Power 5. If there was such a thing as a Power 4, they may be on the outside looking in. And then if there was a such thing as a Power 6, Almond Bancroft, we saw Coach Lamb taking in basketball over at the Cranberry this past weekend. But there's a lot of teams that are in boys basketball, and I think a lot, Steve, just because we don't know yet, we just haven't seen some of them play. Some getting a late start and just some a late start because of football. But we think this will be a fairly fluid list here early, but we're looking forward to the boys' basketball season here coming up. So with that, let's get into our live schedule here for this week. All these games available at ZaleskiSports.com as we go through the list. We'll start with tomorrow, Tuesday. In boys' basketball, it is Colby at Columbus Catholic. You can watch live at ZaleskiSports.com. Also listen on 92.3 WOSQ as WOSQ's Mike Warren will be on the call, 7:15 all the game times. Assumption at Auburndale, and that game, again, ZaleskiSports.com. Our very own Steve Maves on the call there. Neillsville at Owen Withee, and we will have Larry Hazer, WPKG, on the call for that one. But 3 boys games right out of the chute, and Steve, Assumption at Auburndale. You got to see Assumption play a couple games this past weekend, and Auburndale also out to a good start, well-coached team there, Chad Weinfurter. Assumption at Auburndale, though, we think is probably a pretty good game right away. Yeah,
and Assumption, as we talked to Coach Weisenbeck or Randy Paul talked to Coach Weisenbeck after their loss on Friday night, a very, very young team. 1 senior, no juniors, and the rest are sophomores and freshmen. So it should be one heck of a ball game. As you mentioned, Auburndale, a 20-point win over Tomahawk in their first win. And Coach Weinfurter has those boys ready, obviously. A lot of very good talent on the basketball court in Auburndale, so it should be a fun game. I mean, Assumption was able to hang in there with Nakusa and went toe-to-toe with Columbus Catholic as well. So it should be a good game for the first conference game of the year.
Highlights also available of all 3 of those games on the Zaleski Sports Facebook network. We'll also give you highlights as Tammy Matson will travel to Greenwood, and she will show you highlights of Stanley Boyd at Greenwood boys basketball on Tuesday as we play a little bit of catch-up, get the audience familiar with those boys teams right away. Moving on to Thursday, live is Greenwood at Loyal girls basketball. Again, Loyal in the Power 5. We said it last week. If you're in the Power 5, there is a very good chance you will be live, and there are the Loyal Greyhounds. And I will be on the call for that one along with Tammy Matson. And then we've got Columbus Catholic at Spencer, girls basketball there. So 2 girls games on Thursday. And, again, you can watch both of those live at ZaleskiSports.com. Columbus Catholic at Spencer will also be available live on the radio, 92.3 WOSQ. On Friday, it is 2 boys-girls doubleheaders on Friday, and it is Phillips at Assumption, boys-girls doubleheader right here in Wisconsin Rapids, and then it's Prentice at Stratford. We mentioned that just a moment ago, as it'll be the first time the Stratford boys in our Power 5 will take to the court, and they will play Prentice. The girls will play Prentice early in the day, and I will be on the call for both of those games up at Friday. And then, Steve, you're going to get cold on Friday. Yeah. As we begin to unveil our UW Stevens Point collegiate highlight schedule. And Steve is going to take a look at men's hockey on Friday and wear something warm, Steve.
Yeah, and it's going to be an exciting time. Obviously, UWSP winning the national championship last year with no losses, 27 wins, maybe a couple ties, but struggling out of the gate this year. A couple of losses. They fell to River Falls over the weekend, 5-4 in one of their games. So it should be a fun time. I always enjoy hockey, and especially at that next level, the collegiate level, over at KB Willett, should be a lot of fun. Always a good atmosphere on the campus of UWSP.
And then, speaking of UWSP, the men's basketball team off to a 5-0 start, including an upset of number 11 Christopher Newport. They played over in Virginia over the weekend and won all the games out there. So, and I know men's basketball will be a part of our highlight series here this winter. But that's kind of cool, having the Pointers go out there and knock off the number 11 team in the country on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think from what I was reading, I think they were down by 18 at one point, had an 18-point comeback to beat that club. So a nice 5-0 start for the Pointers, and should be a lot of fun. Get to go and check them out in a couple weeks when they host Bethel. And Bethel out of the MIAC, very good conference. Between the MIAC and the WIAC, two of the best conferences in all of Division III sports, no matter what sport it is. So it should be a lot of fun when those two conferences get together again.
Pointers men's team, again, that game against Christopher Newport, they led at halftime 26-22. They win 61-58. Ethan Bublitz, a game-high 25 points, scores almost half of the Pointer points, and that'll help out a team. Yep. And you chip in like that, no doubt about that. All right, guys, well, we will wrap up today's show. Again, thanks to Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln girls and boys basketball coaches Mitch Wolding and Dan Witter on the show today. And you want to see a replay of that, you can see that later on this afternoon over at ZaleskiSports.com. For Steve Maves, Jason Zaleski here telling you to have a great weekend. Go Sports.